Okay, today we are talking about Normans, Plantagenets, and Tudor. From 1066 in Great Britain, the Normans came. They had come from France, and the first king was William the Conqueror, and in 1066 he had fought and won against the Anglo-Saxons against the Anglo-Saxon in the Battle of Hastings. The Normans established in Britain a feudal system which had been previously thought by the Anglo-Saxons, and they introduced a feudal system. They built castles to defend their conquests, and they were divided into followers to the king, who were nobles, knights, and that helped the king to take after the land. And then there were members of the lowest classes. There were the humble tenants and the serfs. And as far as William was interested in understanding which were his resources, he commissioned a detailed survey of land and wealth in England. That's now very interesting. Because it's a tool that make us understand, a sort of wrapper that make us understand about the history of England in William's time. And after William the Conqueror, there were two of his followers. He had two sons. One of them was Henry, and the other one was William II. First, William the Conqueror was succeeded by William II. That was a very coarse and violent man, and then he was succeeded by his younger brother. That was William II. But it happened that Henry had no male heir. Whereas William had also a daughter. Sorry, not William, but Henry had also a daughter. She was Matilda, and Matilda had married Geoffrey the Plantagenet. So what happened? After a short period in which Stephen, William's nephew, reigned, in 1139, with the Treaty of Westminster, a compromise was reached, and Matilda's son, Henry II of Anjou, would succeed to the throne when Stephen died. So actually, when Stephen died, Henry II of Anjou took up the throne. His reign is known. Henry II's reign is remembered for his struggle with the power of church and for his quarrel against Thomas Becket, who was Archbishop of Canterbury. Henry II was the first king of another family, which is called Plantagenets. After Henry II, his son Richard I followed, is remembered with the nickname Lionheart because he was very brave. He went on crusades in Palestine and he tried to regain the French territories he had lost. During his absence and when he was away, his brother John reigned, whose name is connected with the legendary Robin Hood. In 1215, the Magna Carta was signed. Magna Carta is considered the first document of democracy, and the barons made King John sign Magna Carta in 1215 because they want to stop the king raising taxes and raising money to go on war. And it's considered the first document, the first step towards modern democracy. And above all, the 39th clause of this document was stated that all free men had the right to justice and a fair trial, and that no taxes could be taken without the barons' consent. So the document gave actually power to the barons and led to the form of the constitutional monarchy and to the parliament. So after John, Henry VIII reigned and is considered a king who started the fight against the barons, in particularly a very powerful baron who was called Simon de Montfort. After Henry III, Edward I came to power. He raised an army. He defeated the disloyal barons in the Battle of Evesham in August 1265. Then he went against Wales and Scotland. In Wales, he suppressed all rebellions, and in Scotland, he found and fought against Wallace, who is considered a leader of the Scottish independence, and he executed him. When Edward III came to the throne, there was the terrible 100 Years' War against France, 1337-1453, and there were different English victories in Crecy, Poitiers, and Agincourt, but the war was definitely lost thanks to the figure of Joan of Arc, the famous French leader, who won in 1453 against Britain. And the result was that only the port of Calais remained British possessions, whereas all the others were lost. This period ended with the two important events: 1348, the Black Death, the plague, which was a pestilence that caused almost half of the English population to die. And we have to consider this period, that is the end of the medieval period, as the period of birth of the English language, in particular thanks to the author Geoffrey Chaucer and to his Canterbury Tales, which were printed by William Caxton in 1476. And The third important event of this period, 1455 to 1485, was the War of the Roses. The War of the Roses was fought between the two important noble families, the Lancaster family, whose symbol was the red rose, and the York family, whose symbol was the white rose. At the end of this war, the Lancaster family won, and Henry Tudor of the family Tudor came to power, and became king. Henry Tudor was the famous king who inspired Shakespeare in Richard III. 1485 is considered the date, that's when Henry Tudor came to the throne, and is considered a date of the end of the medieval period in Great Britain. Thank you very much for listening, and bye bye.